Hi, my name's Josh, and welcome to the library at Hermit Street, where this week we're going to do something a little different. Let me tell you about my boat. So, first up, we have a bunch of unread books, mostly graphic novels up top. Uh, yeah, there we go. Besides that, I just added these little note cards, labels for all the various sections in my library. Um, it doesn't represent the totality of my book collection in this house, but this is the one in the main library. So here we have uh, my growing Animorphs collection, my Terry Pratchett Discworld books, the Hardy Boys, which I've labeled as Hard Case Crime because I also collect those paperbacks, and then a good amount of Stephen King. So if you see books that are upside down, those are part of a series, but I haven't read them yet. Uh, that's just my little. It's a space saving thing that I've done, so I can kind of keep books together, but I can also keep track of like what I have read and what I haven't read. So over here we have a bunch of crates of unread, again mostly graphic novels. I just picked up the entire run of Tramps Like Us, also known as You're My Pet, which is I guess you would call it a rom com. Um, if Secretary is considered a rom com, Tramps Like Us is a rom com. So we have some more crates over here, also unread books. These I actually got from a friend of a friend who's a farmer who's getting out of the game and was giving away a bunch of bushel crates. So I got them for a song. Um, and they're, beautiful crates. More here. So here we have again, top shelf, very, very tip top shelf is mostly unread books. Besides that, we have, you see the labels? There we go. Fiction original. Now, what that means is, well, pretty much what it sounds like. It's fiction that is, even if there's a series of them, like the Philip Marlowe books, this is fiction that is not tied to a existing IP. Because that, fiction licensed, is its own section, and that is, like tie-in books or movie novelizations. I read a lot of those growing up. I was an avid reader, but sorry, my collar is driving me nuts. So I was an avid reader, but uh, one of the things I loved was books about stuff I was into. So like read a lot of X-Men novels, man, and for my money, and I'll cover it on a future episode. Christopher Golden's Mutant Empire trilogy is like maybe the best X-Men story, at least of a certain era. So that's all down here. We've got the Resident Evil novels. We got Go Trek and Felix, which for the longest time was like the only really fantasy series I ever got into. Below that, we have the start of my graphic novel collection. So these are all hardcovers. There's a couple pretty good gems in there. If you haven't read the Arnold Drake Bruno Premiani Doom Patrol, for my money, the best comic of the Silver Age, Marvel or DC. It is tremendous. It's like it's got elements of like Fantastic Four and X Men, but it's this Dadaist body horror. Just absolutely 10, 20 years ahead of its game as a graphic novel. Um, and yeah, I cannot recommend the Silver Age Doom Patrol comics enough. Moving on, we have comics in trade paperback, and basically the same deal. These are long form comics, just not in hardcover. Some of the gems here, let's see, I've got Love and Rockets. If you guys, and I prefer Jaime Hernandez as half of it, but like Love and Rockets, I think is maybe the best American comic ever made. Um, I think it's a pretty strong contender for that. What else do I have here? Oh, Sexy Voice and Robo. That's another one where it's like I don't know if I would call it like a rom com, but it is a uh, high school girl who works as a phone sex operator, Japan, and she kind of just befriends this mecha model kit enthusiast, and they're not a couple, but it's just kind of their like weird friendship and like her navigating shitty adults in her life, with the help of this like kind of gormless but good-hearted I don't know dude. Also translated by Kelly Sue DeConnick, who went on to have a pretty incredible comics career. What else do we got? Next section is, so I labeled it as Comics Digest, but yeah, basically like smaller sized than trade paperback comics. And again, lead with the hardcovers. I to this day cannot believe that Fist of the North Star got a full, like, A, I can't believe that we got the full run of Fist of the North Star in English finally, and B, I can't believe that there are these gorgeous, absolutely stunning hardcovers. Like some of the best comics reproduction work I've ever seen too. Like the printing on them is just incredible. Below that, we have Comics Digest paperback. You can probably kind of guess that that was coming. What do we have here? Chainsaw Man. Everyone loves Chainsaw Man. Die Dark. If you haven't read Die Dark, it is the best way I can describe it is Calvin and Hobbes set in the Warhammer 40,000 universe. Not actually, but like a similar, grim dark biohack future, but incredibly goofy, and the protagonists are, just kind of lovable, enthusiastic goofballs. Uh, Getting up from a squat's hard. I'm old. So we have more manga over here. I didn't label it, but like box sets, manga box sets. It's a lot easier to shelve 100 something volumes of One Piece that way. Um, but yeah, and we have more unread books. It's a large unread pile. And this is where things get a little more interesting. It's the nonfiction shelves. So this is also where I usually do the videos from. But so we have general nonfiction, and that covers all sorts of nonsense. I have like autobios, books on design, books on sociology, collections of journalism, all sorts of crazy stuff. Then we get into the more specific nonfiction. I always joke that I have America's largest Britpop library, so it's just books on the Britpop scene of the '90s. I got into that via a comic called Phonogram back in the day, and just kind of fell in love with the music, yes, but also the kind of weird sellout ethos of the scene. Um, and like the rejection of grunge and the kind of reflowering of British rock music, I thought was interesting at the time. And what else? We have uh, nonfiction comic industry and nonfiction crime, which um, in a lot of ways could be the same category. Comic industry shady, y'all. Uh, Crime, I always say that I have, a dozen books on true crime, and none of them are about murders, because That's creepy. Um, it's heist and piracy. That's I look way too fat when I do that. Yeah, it's a section of heist and piracy. It has the nonfiction crime section contains my favorite work of nonfiction, which is Joff Manaw's. I don't know if it's Joff or Jeff. Jeff, let's say Jeff Manaw's. Burglar's Guide to the City, which I will absolutely cover on a future episode. Let's see. I have nonfiction film and television. I have nonfiction film and television scripts. I have a really extensive collection now of nonfiction and critical examinations of video games, just because I find that fascinating, and I make games on occasion, video and otherwise. Same reason the other section is a nonfiction writing and craft, and a lot of that is about comics because I also write comics. Uh, and last but not least, poetry, and then we have more unread books. A lot of unread books. I'll get to them. You know, I'll get to them and then I'll talk about them here. And I think last but not least, one of the like prides and joys of my library is this spinner rack, which I had to put on a little platform to make it easier to move. Speaking of which, if you ever have to do that, you can get these like rolling platforms that you're supposed to put big plants on, and that is a great way to move tall standing bookshelves, like tall, thin standing bookshelves, obviously. Uh, so yeah, this spinner rack is all my single issue comics, and I don't bag and board stuff. I think that's kind of I don't know. If you bag and board them, they're hard. They're that much harder to read, and clearly I have a problem with reading the stuff I own anyway. But there's a couple deep cuts here. I got Mobius's Airtight Garage. I've got a full run of the Busick and Perez Avengers, which, and I guess a little bit beyond Perez and still into Busick. Um, is it Busick or Busiek? The Epic Akiras, which Marvel had published these, and I can't see my screen, so I don't know if this is actually showing up or not. Marvel had published these in full color and flopped as part of their Epic line. And it is, to my money, still kind of the best way to read Akira. Also, you guys got to see that I am wearing pajama pants for this. Um, so yeah, that is. I had books to talk about this time too. I finished Between Two Fires. It was excellent. I think I would have what I was telling my friends was I would have liked the book I thought it was going to be, which was just Last of Us during the Black Plague, and it turns out the Black Plague is zombies. That's what I thought it was going to be. It is a much weirder and broader and more berserk comic or novel. Talking too much about comics today. Much broader, deeper, and berserk novel than that, and I really enjoyed it, and I completely recommend it. Although I think I'm late to the game, so you've probably already heard about it. But yeah, this is like I said, kind of a weird one, but I'm a little knackered from shoveling today, and just kind of wanted to give you guys the tour. So hopefully you'll join me again next week. Hopefully my mic picked up all my uh, exerted breathing as I'm just walking around this room. And yeah, well, I'll see you next week from what you now know is a well organized, if way too extensive library. Uh, yeah, be safe, take care. See you next week.